Okay, so this wide neckline, we want to put some gathers in that to give it shape. It looks very wide at the moment. We've changed the foot onto a gathering foot, and you can get these with most domestic machines as well.
And you just do it, doing that flush with the edge of the material.
Yeah, quite close to the edge. Just like the foot space away.
Yeah.
Because this, when we pipe, we've got to cover the area of, but before you start to gather, make sure you try it out on a spare piece of fabric and make sure that the gathers are according to what you want. So if you want more gathers in your fabric, then what you've got to do is make the stitch longer.
Have the stitch longer.
Yeah, so you get more compacted fabric pulling together. So the longer the length of the stitching, the more fabric it will take and the more it'll crunch it up and gather it. Now for this we want like a standard, so I've kept the stitching to about 3 inches. If you take the measurement, if you take the tape measure and just measure around the outside of that neckline, just the front neckline, and see what it is.
On the original dress?
On the original dress. So we can sort of give a guidance on, and this is done on the right side of the fabric. Yeah, the machine makes like a funny noise.
So just go around the neckline?
Yeah, just go around the neckline. That might.
Yeah, so it's about 18 inches.
It's about 18 inches, right? So this, what I've done, I think it might be just a little bit more. So if you less, so it might be that. See, these are compact. Generally what you do if you don't have a foot for this, then what you do is loosen the tension and keep the normal foot, and you would just with the loose tension you would just do a straight seam. Okay, I'll do that for you as well, so it gives you like an idea. And then generally you pull on the thread and you gather up.
Right. So do you mean like if you're doing sleeves, that sort of thing?
Pull the thread and gather the material. So for that, in order to do it manually, what you have to do is loosen the tension a little bit. And
so reduce, you mean?
Reduce the tension so that this one of the stitching is looser, and when you pull on it, it's easier to pull, because otherwise if you, and a slightly wider stitching as well. So what we have is we've created that looks more of
it does.
Like
it looks nice.
Yeah, that looks more of like the shape of a neckline.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
do you want to have a measure?
This is probably slightly smaller than what, but it'll pull when we're piping it as well. It'll pull. What was it? 18.
I remember I said 16 or 18.
Yeah, 18. This is exactly 18.
Oh.
Normally my guesswork is just about accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, so next thing to do on this is to attach the shoulders. Yeah, the shoulder seam. So even though, because we want to do one piping all the way around. Now if you're new at this, make sure to leave a little bit of spare thread at the ends as well. Okay, because sometimes what it'll end up doing is it'll start becoming undone, and then you'll end up losing some of this gathers. Yeah. So if you leave it a little bit extra, you can either tie a knot in it, or you can combine it into the seam, and that way it'll catch in the seam and it'll just make it a little bit compact. Now 2 ways you can do this. You can either finish, if you're finding it difficult and if you're absolutely new and if you're not too bothered about the end result, then at the back of the dress, then you can put the piping on at this stage and then do the back one. Or you can do the shoulder seams, which will give you a little bit more difficult to do, but it will give you a neater finish.
Yeah, I think, I don't mind either way.
Yeah, we'll do it this way. So do you want to just pass me the other one?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Now put this one at the bottom. and put your gathered one at the top.
No pins for you, Jan.
No,
You
no
don't,
pins.
don't use pins.
I don't. I do have them here, a few.
Just be fancy.
No. The time when I use pins is normally on when I do apply interfacing and stuff on, and I apply a different neck piece on.
Yeah.
Then I'd use a few pins, right? If you feel uncomfortable and you want to use pins, by all means use them. Now, one is slightly more, but you know the slightly more side, we'll leave it towards the shoulder area, not the neck area.
Right.
Unless
so always match your neck cut.
Yeah. Unless you've cut your neckline, because this neckline is quite deep. If we left space here, then what it would mean is that we'd have to, the neck would even become wider.
Yeah.
So the space on the shoulders, that doesn't matter. We can take the needle, seaming back to normal length.
And then you just leave your normal seam allowance all the way around for all this.
Yeah. Alright, so double stitch back and forth.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that is. Thread cutter somewhere. I think it might be on the table. Just use scissors. I'll just use the scissors.
Yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah, that'll get gathered.
That's nice. Yeah.
Now we'll do the neckline. And okay, I've got these are the bias cut bindings.
Did you measure that or anything, Jan, the neckline? What would I do? I know you can sort of do it from your eye, but what would...
The width of it, well, you've got your template there, so it'll give you an idea of how wide we've cut this. Is that the back or the front? It's the back. Have I got the front one? So it's here. Yeah. I can't remember what I cut, how wide I cut it. Well, it does look ridiculously wide, which I said it would.
Yeah.
But then this is the amount we want in order to bring it back to 18 to, you know, enough gathers all the way around. We measured it 7 inches down.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted an inch on the shoulders. So, you know, by leaving just an inch on the shoulder, it's sort of, you take away all the excess.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Without you know, without actually even explaining that, it's quite a simple explanation. That 7 inches, and you've only got the inch on the shoulder. Then the excess in between is rounded off.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
So I think I didn't pay any attention to it, but
no,
I think it's like one of those common sense things that you don't really pay attention to. Right. That's joining the two pieces, because one is not enough. Make sure to join them on the, you know, I've got two pieces. One's not enough. This would probably be enough for the front. That'll be enough for the back. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is
that slightly curved, or is it straight? Is it just?
No, it's cut on a bias.
Right. So you just cut it on the bias.
I've just cut it on a bias, and then these were the original grain edges.
Yeah.
So the grain to grain we're matching, and we're doing a seam diagonally.
Yeah. Would you say that's about 3 inch wide, 2 inch?
About 2.5 would probably be, or maybe even 2 inches. We'll just measure it. It's probably about 2 inches.
Yeah.
You see, that's
your,
you know, your cut will be equal as well then that way. Just finish them off. So decide on where you want to start. I would say start from somewhere around the middle of the back.
Right.
And when you start, leave a little bit of space there.
So So it's
Now-
right sides together on the...
Yeah. No, I haven't started sewing, but I'm just giving you a space on where to start. So normally the easiest way for someone like yourself
Yeah.
to do this is to hold it together as a double. Or if you find it, I don't normally advise to seam this, because when you've seamed it, what you've done is you've made this into a solid piece and the flexibility goes.
Right.
Okay, so what I would do is leave about maybe an inch and a half space to start off with.
Yeah.
You can start anywhere from the back, and I would place that underneath, and your dress double folded fabric piece at the bottom and your dress piece at the top. Now this is one of the easiest ways of doing it, okay?
So the bias is underneath it.
The bias is underneath the dress and it's double folded. The reason why I would suggest doing it like this, generally when it's applied on ready-made dresses, they use a special machine that it feeds this through, and it also turns it over. So it's doing a seam inside and it's doing a seam at the top, and it's trapping all this material just all on the one go.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of having that machine part and the machines to do that. So we're doing it manually. Don't pull this too much either. Keep it reasonably flexible. Your shoulder seam, turn it towards the back as you get to the shoulder seam, and you just sew fairly close to the edge. Every time you stop, make sure your needle is down and your foot is down as well. Now you lift. If you think that the fabric is gathered or is not even, every time you stop and you restart, you first of all you hold that folded up.
Yeah.
You straighten your material on top, align it. Once you've aligned it, before you start the machine, lift your foot up and just straighten it up. Because in the meantime, it would have slightly bit of would have gathered there, you know, because you've paused in between.
Yeah. Are you leaving? You're doing it as close to the edge as you can there.
I am doing it. I'm doing it on top of the gathering seam.
Yeah.
And fairly close to the edge. Okay. So each time you straighten it up about 3-4 inches ahead of yourself, and seaming. Put the light on so that it's a bit more brighter. It's a bit more difficult sewing dark colours as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're sewing it, in small stages, basically. And the more you do this, obviously, the more experience you'll get.
Yeah, I think I'll have to practice that whole.
Yeah.
Just
And now what I would suggest is cut the pieces on a bias and cut around a circle and try to, around a circle.
That's a good idea.
And try to do that on a circle.
Maybe like
I like a miniature round neckline, but just on a scrap piece of fabric. And if you do it a few times, you'll soon get used to it. So almost we're done on the portion of the front of the neckline. Now if you've got plenty of fabric, you can avoid cutting, this. I didn't want to cut into it because I was afraid that because we've got to cut the frills.
Yeah, you wanted to be sure. Yeah, so like instead of 1.25 meters, there's not lots left.
No, did you have 1.5 meters?
Oh, 1.5, sorry.
Yeah, 1.5 meters is generally a good amount to get. Okay, so we've done the front of the neckline, we're getting to the back of the neckline. And normally the hardest part on this is going to be the joining of the two.
Right, yeah.
The front and the back.
Yeah.
Where we've got the joint, where we left an inch of space.
To make it look neat.
Yeah. So we're going to get close to that, then we'll cut and we'll join those two up. So that's where, let me see, that's where.
Yeah.
And we'll take sort of like a pause there. Just double seam it, just get the thread from there. And then, now can you see this? We'll straighten it, we'll cut the excess away and just straighten it. and that. We'll match them up and we'll leave just enough to do the seam.
Yeah.
And then we'll take both of those edges just do with slightly unpicking this. Give us room to do the seam on the inside. Okay, this should be enough. Do a seam on those two, right sides facing each other. So when we turn it over, you know, the seam will be hidden on the inside. We left enough room to overlap them so that it gives us enough fabric to that's gone on the inside now, the raw edges. Now if you want, you can open, just to get a more neater finish, you can open these up. Or you can press it and that way it'll sit even better.
Yeah. And then just finish that.
Yeah,
that
and then
the
just
same way.
Yeah, just finish all that seam off now. Now every time I lift the foot up, you can hear, you know, this is an automatic machine where you hear the clicking.
Yeah.
But it gives you an idea of, even though you'll be doing it manually with the hand, lifting the foot up, you know, this area up, but it will lift the foot up, and that way you can straighten your fabric a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna turn this over, but in order to turn this over, what you'll have to do is you'll have to trim this down. Even though there isn't that much in it, it's just a little bit too much to, let me see.
So yeah, so you need to trim
so
it a bit.
you need to trim it down a bit. You need to trim it down because it's quite difficult, because it's got gathers in it. It's a bit difficult to see how far you're going from the edge. It's quite difficult to sew right on the edge.
So do you usually need to trim it? Is that a usual thing?
Yeah, you do
Yeah.
generally need to trim it down a bit. Because this, the gathered fabric seems to be a bit more bulky as well.
Yeah.
It's not too bad when it's single layered like here. It's not too bad because of the fabric being crumpled up. It'll take, you know, it'll be a bit more difficult to. See, this is thin piping, so this is where the joint was.
Yeah, that's quite a thin material, so if it were thicker, you'd definitely have to do that.
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
you'd have to trim it down. Yeah. Now we're gonna start by over seaming, and because this is bias, you know, it'll stretch accordingly.
That's the opposite. Is that the right side of the fabric upwards?
Yeah. I'm turning it on the top side. At the same time, I'm making sure that, you know, these pleats are sitting evenly.
Yeah.
That they've got even, like a balance.
This is the bit I'll practice this weekend.
Yeah. Can you see I'm just sort of evening it out as well at the same time?
would you notice mistakes easily on the gathers, or could you get away with?
No, you'd get away with it. This is when I was telling you there was a couple of ways of doing piping. This is one of the best ways for people who have the least experience.
Oh, so it's
Yeah, there are other ways of doing this as well, but you'd get a good neat finish, and it's relatively easy to do.
Yeah.
Without too much, making a mistake.
When I went to college to do that shorter course, you had tie-in it, there were bias binding, little gadget that you ironed it. This is much simpler than that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like a little gadget.
Oh, I've got the gadgets as well.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by gadgets, and you know how you think that it's going to make everything easy, and I'm going to buy this and it's going to make life so much easier, and it's not really. You just end up wasting money, and you have all these gadgets lying around. I mean, I saw that, and oh my god, I have to have this. This is so good, and I was, going on about it.
You'd still rather do it this way than
I would rather do it this way. This is the easiest and the best way. And there really is no need for it.
Yeah.
The gadgets.
No, you just wanted one.
You get to, it's the way they're presented, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you think, oh my god, this will make my life so much easier, and it's not gonna. Now you see how you require more fabric for that than you do over here. So here, because there's less fabric getting trapped in the turning fabric, the fabric there.
Yes. Yeah.
Here you needed more to trap it, because
you don't
obviously
need as much
you don't need as much on the back because you haven't got the excess of the gathers.
Yeah. So you'd have to be careful to make sure that was the same width, wouldn't you, when you do it?
But it doesn't matter. You can have a little bit more. Can you see? You can have a little bit more to a turning. You can still do same amount of turning, but instead you can do it, leave slightly bit overlapping. The only thing that you have to be careful on is this creating this curve, that you try and keep your pull level.
Yeah.
Sometimes these terms might seem, because you don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. To watch it, I think, haven't you?
Yeah. By I don't know. I suppose I never learned the proper terminology of what they would call certain way of doing something. So I've had to create my own terminology for it as well.
Yeah.
Now
I'm getting smoothing it as you go around.
You are. That's it. Finished and back on your seam. Right. What we do is turn on the iron and give it a press now.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm sure mine wouldn't be as neat as that. I'll practice before.
That'll take time. That will take time. There's just one thing that I probably would mend on this.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes you only realize this when you've done something. I think width-wise, this neckline is good. I think length-wise, it might need to go just slightly deeper.
Right. I mean, I don't really mind anyway. That was an idea.
Yeah.
If you were copying it perfectly.
No. If you were copying, but this is the beauty of it, that you can, if it's not perfect for you the once, you can redo it with a slight bit of amendment.
Yeah.
And make it perfect the same the next time.
So do you tend to do
because
that? Because
what would happen with, when these designs are made originally, what they would do is they would make a sample.
Yes.
And then they would try it, or they would put it on a mannequin or a person or whatever, and find the flaws with it, and then they would
adapt it.
Until it's final,
Yeah.
So we're trying to replicate it for our own body, and sometimes it's not the case that you might not get it absolutely perfect the first time.
Yeah.
So even looking at this, I'm going to press it and then try it on you, just to see how low this neckline goes, but. Looking at it like this, probably I would have liked it just a little bit deeper. Yeah. Meaning going a little bit lower.
Well, we could do that on the chiffon
but
anyway.
You can do that on your pattern, make it a little bit, or when you're cutting the chiffon, you can cut it a little bit more deeper.
Yeah.
And that way it will, fix that problem.
Yeah.
But there's
Like
always,
say,
trying
you do
it out.
that anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Trial and error.
Yeah. Well, majority of stuff that I'd sew, I'd probably be familiar with, but there are things that you always find limited space here. Now, put this check back in.